Welcome to your deep dive.
Today we're diving into something quite specific. Excerpts from This is the Gospel of Mary Magdalene 2.txt.
Right. And you shared this text with us with a particular request that we actually read it word for word as part of our discussion.
Exactly. So our mission today is really to explore its key ideas by engaging directly with the language just as it's presented.
To really uncover what makes this ancient text, well, so compelling by hearing the words themselves.
And the figure at the heart of it is Mary Magdalene. But maybe not the Mary most people think of.
Not the sinner from the canonical Gospels.
No, not here. This text portrays her as a really intimate friend of Jesus, an initiate, someone he trusted with his, let's say, more subtle teachings.
Okay, so as we go through this word-for-word exploration, we should probably keep some key themes in mind.
Definitely. Like, why was it so hard for a gospel written by a woman to be accepted?
Good point. And its view of human nature. You mentioned something about non-dualistic anthropology.
Yeah, that's a big one. And the metaphysics of the imaginal, this idea of a different kind of reality.
And of course, that unique relationship between Mary and Jesus that the text describes.
So starting with that difficulty of acceptance, it's pretty fundamental, isn't it? You've got a gospel linked directly to a woman, Mary Magdalene.
Which historically would have been challenging, to say the least.
Right. And as we prepare to read the words, it immediately pushes back against that traditional image. She's not presented as the sinner.
Nor defined by, later ideas about her sexuality.
Exactly. The text we're reading paints her as this close companion, the initiate. She receives these nuanced teachings.
And transmits them.
Yes. But the difficulty goes beyond just her being a woman. It's also about what the gospel teaches. Its understanding of being human, of reality.
It doesn't fit neatly into simple boxes, like body versus spirit.
Not at all. And its view of reality isn't based on fixed essences like a lot of Western thought. It hints at something more complex, maybe a fourfold human nature, and this metaphysics centered on the imaginal.
Concepts that, you said, modern thinkers are only now really digging into.
In some ways, yes. So, engaging with this text word for word, it challenges us on, well, multiple levels.
The authority of a woman's spiritual voice.
Mary's true identity.
And even how we understand ourselves and reality.
And what's really striking, as the source text itself points out, is that even among gospels attributed to women, Mary's the one acknowledged by the other disciples.
Acknowledged as the first to see the resurrected Christ, right?
Precisely. And if you look at early Christian writings, the ones from the first few centuries after Jesus, Mary Magdalene is almost everywhere.
Really? In most significant texts?
Pretty much. Sometimes she's celebrated, sometimes, there were attempts to downplay her role, but she's there.
That's fascinating. It suggests she was a really central figure, even with those varying views.
Absolutely. And these early accounts, as the text reminds us, they generally agree on the basics. She followed Jesus, was at the crucifixion, first witness to the resurrection.
Seen as a leader among the women disciples.
Yes. And the text also mentions that detail from Mark and Luke Jesus casting out 7 demons from her.
Which paints a picture of profound transformation, doesn't it? From being possessed to being his companion and the key witness.
It definitely moves beyond any simple one-dimensional label for her.
Yeah, that journey itself, being possessed, then being the first witness, it really resists easy categorization. And that complexity sets us up nicely for the unique portrayal we're about to read word for word.
And in this gospel, she's the one Jesus reveals teachings to that the others didn't get. She kind of fills the void after he leaves, explaining the secrets she received.
Now, you mentioned later interpretations, the idea of a sexual relationship.
Right, and the text we're exploring is pretty clear that this comes from a corrupt thought, a misunderstanding. Their connection was deep love, companionship, adoration, but not sexual.
That's a really important distinction the text makes, especially as we're focusing on its specific words. A spiritual bond, not physical.
Exactly. The text points out, like in John's Gospel, that Jesus loved Mary, just as he loved Martha, Lazarus, all his followers, even Judas, in a way.
So not loving some more than others overall, but maybe uniquely.
Precisely. A universal, unconditional love for everyone, but also, specific personal affinities, intimacies. It's natural. He invites us to that kind of divine love. But human love has preferences, right? Resonances.
That makes sense. It allows for the special bond with Mary without diminishing the love for others. It's a framework for understanding love itself.
And with that context, maybe we can turn to the text itself now. The Gospel of Mary, like others, it calls us to free ourselves from those inner conflicts, the things that make us demonic, as it says.
But not by denying the body.
No, that's key.
Hmm?
It suggests that if we stop identifying only with these partial aspects,
Mhm.
like the body or matter, if we aren't enslaved by them, they can actually be sanctified, transfigured.
Transformed. And this involves what the text calls our creative imagination.
Yes, using it to bring love to those parts of ourselves that lack it, blocked desires, underdeveloped understanding. Kind of like Mary's own journey with Jesus.
So it's about changing our relationship with the material, not ditching it. And this creative imagination is the tool.
And the text suggests, if we want to get what spiritual communion means, we need to imagine our own ignorance being transformed by the unexpected word into loving friendship.
Turning the ordinary into something divine.
Exactly. We have to sort of live that love-filled journey Mary did, confronting death, passing through it, understanding it in light of resurrection.
And then there's that phrase you mentioned.
Right. Those who have ears, let them hear. It pops up again and again.
It really does feel like a call to listen differently, doesn't it? Beyond just the surface words.
It does. And this gospel takes it further. Mary wasn't just a woman. She was a woman with sacred knowledge.
Which, in her time, would automatically make her an outsider.
Or worse, yeah. She was outside the norms where only men usually studied scripture or even learned to read it. So when she speaks to the male disciples in this gospel,
Friction was inevitable.
you can almost hear them. Who does she think she is? First, the special relationship. Now she's interpreting his teachings like an initiate and using his own words.
Those who have ears, let them hear. Right back at them.
Exactly. It highlights the barriers she faced, the significance of her actually speaking up.
But you're saying the gospel goes deeper than just that conflict.
Much deeper. It reveals a whole different way of knowing, prophetic, visionary, not exclusively female, but definitely embodying that feminine principle, maybe an angelic dimension.
And this leads to Mary's question to the teacher.
Yes. How does she see the resurrection? What's the organ of true vision? And his answer, as we'll read, is clear. Not physical eyes, not the soul, the psyche.
So perceiving the resurrection goes beyond normal senses, beyond even the soul as we usually think of it.
Right. It's not a hallucination, not a fantasy based on senses or emotions. And interestingly, the gospel says it's not even a purely spiritual pneumatic vision either.
Okay, so if it's not physical, psychic, or purely spiritual, what is it?
It's a vision of the nous,
The Nazars. Okay.
a dimension often missed. Ancients called it the finest point of the soul, or maybe the angel of the soul.
And this gives access to an intermediate space?
Exactly. Between the sensory and the purely spiritual. It's what Henry Corbin called the imaginal realm.
The imaginal, like the creative imagination we talked about.
It's connected, but we need to be careful. This isn't just imagination as daydreaming. Think of the imaginal as a real intermediary world, like dreams feel real while you're in them. Corbin argued spiritual encounters happen in this kind of space, not just in your head, but as sort of shared reality.
Okay, so the nous is the faculty, the imaginal is the realm, and this is key to seeing the resurrection.
Ah.
And it's crucial to separate this creative imaginal power from just, making things up.
Absolutely crucial. And with that foundation, let's finally turn to the gospel itself. Starting on page 7, reading word for word as requested.
Okay, page 7, go ahead.
Attachment to matter gives rise to passion against nature. Thus, trouble arises in the whole body. This is why I tell you, be in harmony. If you are out of balance, take inspiration from manifestations of your true nature. Those who have ears, let them hear.
Reading that directly, wow, it jumps right into the problem. Attachment to matter causes inner conflict, passion against nature leading to disharmony.
And the solution offered right away is harmony, and looking to our true nature for inspiration.
Okay, what comes next?
After saying this, the Blessed One greeted them all, saying, "Peace be with you. May my peace arise and be fulfilled within you. Be vigilant and allow no one to mislead you by saying, 'Here it is, there it is.' For it is within you that the Son of Man dwells. Go to him for those who seek. Find him. Walk forth and announce the gospel of the kingdom."
So reading that, the emphasis shifts inward. Peace is internal. The Son of Man, that divine spark, is within us.
And the instruction is clear. Seek within, then go out and share the message. Walk forth.
And then there's a warning.
Yes. Impose no law other than that which I have witnessed. Do not add more laws to those given in the Torah, lest you become bound by them. Having said all this, he departed.
That's quite direct. A warning against adding extra rules beyond his teachings and the Torah because they can end up restricting us.
And the disciples' reaction, it's immediate.
Let's hear it.
The disciples were in sorrow, shedding many tears and saying, "How are we to go among the unbelievers and announce the gospel of the kingdom of the Son of Man? They did not spare his life, so why should they spare ours?"
Oh, the human reaction. Reading that, you feel their sorrow, their fear. How can they possibly continue this mission when it's so dangerous?
But then Mary steps in. Then Mary arose, embraced them all, and began to speak to her brothers. "Do not remain in sorrow and doubt, for his grace will guide you and comfort you. Instead, let us praise his greatness, for he has prepared us for this. He is calling upon us to become fully human." Anthropos. Thus Mary turned their hearts toward the good, and they began to discuss the meaning of the teacher's words.
So, reading her words, she really takes charge there, comforts them, redirects them from fear to praise, and introduces this idea of becoming fully human, the anthropos.
Yeah, Anthropos isn't just human, it's like the fully realized human being. Integrated body, mind, spirit, reaching that potential. She shifts their whole focus.
She really does. And then Peter speaks to her.
Yes. Peter said to Mary, "Sister, we know that the teacher loved you differently from other women. Tell us whatever you remember of any words he told you which we have not yet heard."
Reading that, Peter himself acknowledges that unique relationship. He calls her sister and asks for the teachings they haven't heard. That feels significant.
It is. It highlights her special position right before she shares her vision.
Okay, let's hear Mary's account of the vision.
Mary said to them, "I will now speak to you of that which has not been given to you to hear. I had a vision of the teacher and said to him, 'Lord, I see you now in this vision.' And he answered, 'You are blessed, so the sight of me does not disturb you. There where is the nous lies the treasure.' Then I said to him, 'Lord, when someone meets you in a moment of vision, is it through the soul, psyche, that you see, or is it through the spirit, pneuma?' The teacher answered, 'It is neither through the soul nor the spirit, but the nous between the two which sees the vision, and it is this which—'"
And then the text breaks off. Pages 11 to 14 are missing.
Exactly. But reading what we do have, it's powerful. The vision itself is blessing her for not being disturbed, the link between the nous and treasure.
And that crucial clarification, seeing isn't through psyche or pneuma alone, but the nous in between. That missing part leaves so much room for thought, doesn't it?
It really does.
Yeah.
Then when the text resumes on page 15, we get this dialogue of the soul ascending.
Right, encountering craving and ignorance. Let's read that section.
And craving said, "I did not see you descend, but now I see you rising. Why do you lie, since you belong to me?" The soul answered, "I say you, though you did not see me, nor recognize me. I was with you as with a garment, and you never felt me." Having said this, the soul left, rejoicing greatly. Then it entered into the third climate, known as ignorance. Ignorance inquired of the soul, "Where are you going? You are dominated by wicked inclinations. Indeed, you lack discrimination, and you are enslaved." The soul answered, "Why do you judge me, since I have made no judgment? I have been dominated, but I myself have not dominated. I have not been recognized, but I myself have recognized that all things which are composed shall be decomposed on earth and in heaven."
Reading that exchange, the soul is really pushing back against these forces, isn't it? Denying craving's claim, challenging ignorance's judgment, and asserting its own recognition of impermanence.
Yes, it shows a growing awareness and detachment. Then it ascends further into the fourth climate,
Which is described as having 7 manifestations.
right? The sevenfold wrath. Let's read that part. Freed from this third climate, the soul continued its ascent and found itself in the fourth climate. This has 7 manifestations. The first manifestation is darkness. The second, craving. The third, ignorance. The fourth, lethal jealousy. The fifth, enslavement to the body. The sixth, intoxicated wisdom. The seventh, guileful wisdom. These are the 7 manifestations of wrath, and they oppress the soul with questions. "Where do you come from, murderer? And where are you going, vagabond?" The soul answered, "That which oppressed me has been slain. That which encircled me has vanished. My craving has faded, and I am freed from my ignorance."
Wow, reading those accusations, murderer, vagabond, it sounds intense, but the soul's response is so definitive. Oppressed me has been slain, craving has faded, freed from my ignorance. It's a declaration of victory.
A real liberation. And then the soul concludes its speech. "I let the world with the aid of another world. A design was erased by virtue of a higher design. Henceforth I travel toward repose, where time rests in the eternity of time. I go now into silence." Having said all this, Mary became silent, for it was in silence that the teacher spoke to her.
Reading that ending, I go now into silence. It feels like the culmination of the journey, reaching a state beyond words, the very place where she connected with the teacher. It's quite poetic.
It is. But then, immediately after Mary falls silent, Andrew speaks up.
Ah, the reaction. Let's hear it word for word.
Then Andrew began to speak and said to his brothers, "Tell me, what do you think of these things she has been telling us? As for me, I do not believe that the teacher would speak like this. These ideas are too different from those we have known." And Peter added, "How is it possible that the teacher talked in this manner with a woman about secrets of which we ourselves are ignorant? Must we change our customs and listen to this woman? Did he really choose her and prefer her to us?"
Oof. Reading that, you hear the doubt immediately. Andrew finds it too different. Peter questions how Jesus could talk to a woman about secrets they didn't know, even asking if she was preferred.
It lays bare the skepticism, the challenge to their assumptions, maybe even some resentment or jealousy.
And how does Mary respond to this direct challenge?
Then Mary wept and answered him, "My brother Peter, what can you be thinking? Do you believe that this is just my own imagination, that I invented this vision? Or do you believe that I would lie about our teacher?"
Her tears, her direct questions to Peter. Reading that, you feel her hurt, but also her firmness. She's appealing to his reason, challenging his implication that she's either delusional or lying.
It's a powerful emotional moment. But then Levi steps in.
Ah, Levi. What does he say? Let's read his words.
At this, Levi spoke up. "Peter, you have always been hot-tempered, and now we see you repudiating a woman, just as our adversaries do. Yet if the teacher held her worthy, who are you to reject her? Surely the teacher knew her very well, for he loved her more than us. Therefore, let us atone and become fully human, anthropos, so that the teacher can take root in us. Let us grow as he demanded of us, and walk forth to spread the gospel, without trying to lay down any rules and laws other than those he witnessed." When Levi said these words, they all went forth to spread the gospel.
Wow. Levi really calls Peter out, doesn't he? Reading that, he directly addresses Peter's temper, challenges his rejection of Mary, just as our adversaries do, reminds him of the teacher's love for her, and then brings it back to their core mission. Become fully human, let the teacher take root, spread the witness gospel without adding rules.
It's a pivotal intervention. He basically says, "Who are you to question the teacher's judgment?" And his words shift the energy, moving them from doubt to action.
That final line, "they all went forth to spread the gospel," shows the impact of Levi's words. Read directly like that, it resolves the immediate conflict.
Absolutely. It's a powerful sequence. So we've read through quite a chunk there, covering Mary's vision, the soul's ascent, and the disciples' reactions.
Yeah, that was a lot. Maybe we can unpack some of it now. Starting back near the beginning of the text we read, with Mary's question about matter.
Good idea. She asks, "What is matter? Will it last forever?" And the teacher's answer, reading it again, "All that is born, all that is created, all the elements of nature are interwoven and united with each other. All that is composed shall be decomposed. Everything returns to its roots. Matter returns to the origins of matter. Those who have ears, let them hear."
So reflecting on those specific words, the core message is interconnection and impermanence. Nothing lasts forever in its current form. It all returns to its source.
Right. It sets the stage for understanding the material world, not as something bad, but as something temporary, interconnected.
And this probably informs the later teachings about not getting attached to it, right? Because it's inherently transient.
Exactly. Before you even ask about good or evil or the purpose of things, the text prompts this fundamental question. What is this reality we're experiencing? Is it permanent? Who are we within it?
It's like a call to philosophical bedrock before building anything else.
And this path, the text suggests, is one of divine knowledge, gnosis. It goes deeper than just rules for living. Jesus, the teacher here, is giving knowledge for reintegration with ourselves, with the source, the Father.
Restoring us to that intimacy with the source that Jesus himself embodies.
Yes. And some translators use savior instead of teacher, but the text implies what we need saving from is ignorance. Ignorance of our source, of the presence Jesus represents. Salvation here is primarily knowledge, the truth that frees us.
Frees us from mistaking the temporary like matter for the ultimately real.
Precisely. Reading the teacher's words again, all that is composed shall be decomposed. The world is this vast web of relations. Tug one strand, you affect the whole thing. That applies to matter of the body, the psyche.
Everything's a pattern, subject to breaking down.
So matter returns to the origins of matter. But that ultimate source, the origin, it can't be an object we grasp. From our perspective, it might seem like nothingness, the nothing from which the all arises.
Like John's gospel says about the Logos, nothing came into being except through him.
Exactly. And then again, those who have ears, let them hear. It's not elitist irony. It's an invitation to develop that faculty of subtle perception, to really listen, even to the silence where the real speaks.
You need the ears, the open consciousness, the awakened nous to perceive anything, whether it's matter's origins or deeper truths. Without that inner faculty, there's nothing to hear or see or understand.
Right. And this leads into Peter's question, which we also read. After acknowledging Jesus as the interpreter of reality, he asks,
What is the sin of the world?
and the teacher's answer is stunning, reading it again. There is no sin. It is you who make sin exist when you act according to the habits of your corrupted nature. This is where sin lies.
That's radical. Sin isn't a thing out there. It's something we create through our actions, stemming from a corrupted nature. It shifts responsibility entirely inward.
It does, and it warns against the danger. Peter's question implies seeing sin in others. Because if you see sin as inherent in someone, the next step can be wanting to destroy them, thinking you're doing good.
Seeing yourself as a savior, ridding the world of evil, when actually,
You might just be acting out of your own projections. The text calls this tendency relativizing the absolute and absolutizing the dramatic sin of the contemporary world, a sickness of intelligence and heart.
taking our limited perceptions as the whole truth, confusing ourselves with temporary images, maybe ones others have of us or ones we create.
Leading to pathologies like inflation, megalomania, extreme forms of identifying with what we are not.
Okay, and then there was that other instruction we read, do not add more laws.
Right. Do not add more laws, lest you become bound by them. The teacher connects this to the idea that where there's no law, there's no sin, echoing Paul.
Paul said, without the law, sin is dead.
Exactly. Laws have a teaching function, especially early on, like needing simple food as a baby. But this gospel, it seems addressed to spiritual adults who've internalized the law's spirit.
So for them, the law isn't a barrier anymore, but like wind filling the sails, guiding them toward freedom.
Beautifully put, like Paul freeing Christians from the domination of external laws to live by the Spirit. This gospel invites living freely by abiding with the one within, the good connecting to the source.
And the text says, this is why the good has come into your midst. It acts together with the elements of your nature so as to reunite it with its roots.
The good comes because there's a lack in nature, in us. We feel a lack of being. Corruption starts when we identify with that lack, confuse ourselves with the temporary matter.
But experiencing that emptiness, that lack, can actually make us open to being filled.
Paradoxically, yes. Like the Easter chant, "O happy fault of Adam," whose fault, identifying with clay, let him experience his nothingness. From that lack, desire arises. If you truly do nothing, stop being something, God can enter.
Leaving behind the illusion of being a fixed, permanent thing.
And returning to our true nature as the subject, the consciousness witnessing the transient world. When we drop that illusion, the good can enter. In the midst of accepted impermanence, the unborn, unmade source shines.
The clear light, unobstructed by our identifications. The teacher came to free us from that ignorance of identification.
Because he is the good, the unity, the text says, of goodness, truth, and beauty. Not good opposed to evil, but the integration of all three.
And separating them is dangerous.
Very. Goodness without truth becomes hypocrisy. Truth without goodness becomes fanaticism. Beauty without truth and goodness becomes empty aestheticism. The good, the one, is the doorway to being.
And this being can only manifest in a heart, body, mind emptied of illusion, of ego.
Right. The good comes to reunite us with our roots, planting seeds of knowledge, restoring our heritage, that resonance with the source. It invites us to live that life of glory, love, consciousness.
And this reunion isn't a one-off event, but an ongoing relationship.
Always renewed. It's ignorance that creates distance, causing sickness and suffering. Knowledge involves going beyond the known and returning inward, acting from our deepest desire.
Which brings us back to those stark words we read. This is why you become sick and why you die. It is the result of your actions. What you do takes you further away. Those who have ears, let them hear.
Powerful, isn't it? Sickness, suffering, death, consequences of our actions. But crucially, there's no one to blame. Not matter, not the world, not others, not even ourselves.
The text says sin arises from the blamer in ourselves.
Yes, that internal obstacle, the divider. Early Christians saw deliverance in this no-blame teaching. When the blamer dies, the part of us that feels like a victim, we're free. We stop feeding it.
And instead, the responsible son takes over, observing cause and effect without accusation.
Leading to transformation. The Savior, the source of understanding, is within. The teacher wants us with eyes open, observing attentively, seeing what can be done, not wasting energy on blame.
Do not judge. You are the result of your actions, and only through them can you transform. Even death, or our idea of it, stems from identifying with the mortal.
What you do takes you further away. It forces that deep self-questioning. Are my actions, my work, relationships, attitudes bringing me closer to the source, to the good where truth, goodness, beauty unite, or further away?
It confronts us with our freedom, as you said. We direct the path even towards sickness or towards the good. We discover the meaning.
Which requires courage and that sublime imagination we touched on earlier, which connects back to attachment to matter gives rise to passion against nature. Be in harmony. Take inspiration from manifestations of your true nature.
And attachment isn't just to physical stuff.
No, the text implies attachment to people, countries, ideologies, beliefs, anything we make into an object we possess or identify with. Even looking at someone with lust to make them an object, missing the richer subject.
Attaching to ideas can be even stronger, taking us further from freedom, creating that passion against nature because we're clinging to the impermanent.
Right. It's natural to love, to appreciate the transient beauty, like dew reflecting the sun. But trying to possess it, make it permanent when it's not meant to be. That's foolish, leads to trouble. The body knows this.
So the teacher isn't preaching belief, but reminding us of facts. Attachment causes trouble. Return to true nature. Conversion is returning to nature from what's against it.
Seeing with love but without attachment lets the gift appear. Nothing is owed, all is given. We're here to be with, not possess. The illusion of possession causes insecurity. True relationship is harmony with what is.
Be in harmony, a conscious, loving relationship with reality as it is.
And finding inspiration in those who embody that harmony, the fully human, like the teacher. Paul called him the image of the invisible God. Seeing that image is seeing our own potential.
If we hadn't seen authentic, healthy, balanced humanity, we wouldn't know we were sick or unbalanced.
Exactly. So take inspiration from manifestations of your true nature. This can mean being around wise people, visiting sacred places, reflecting on those who incarnate the human and divine within us.
And again, the call to pay attention, to listen deeply. Those who have ears, let them hear. Followed by the teacher's greeting, peace be with you.
Referring to him as the Blessed One, the embodiment of bliss.
Oh yeah, we've covered a lot of the thematic unpacking. Maybe circle back briefly to the disciples' reaction, particularly Peter and Andrew's doubt after Mary's vision account.
Right. Andrew says, these ideas are too different. Peter questions talking secrets with a woman, asks if they should change customs, listen to her if she was preferred.
Their doubt seems rooted in tradition, maybe fear of the unknown, and definitely gender bias.
Yes. It echoes other gospel moments where disciples misunderstand Jesus, like with parables. Their inner eyes, their nous, isn't fully open yet.
Jesus talks about the eye being the lamp of the body in Matthew, needing a sound inner eye, the nous.
And relating to the resurrected teacher requires these new modes of perception beyond just the physical. They dismiss Mary's account almost like idle rambling.
Peter's reaction. Could it be partly psychological, a fear or distrust of the feminine?
It's possible to read it that way. The text certainly suggests that embracing the feminine dimension is necessary for accessing the nous, the spiritual, for that integration into the anthropos, the wedding of masculine and feminine.
And Mary's tears show her pain at their lack of faith, even though she calls Peter brother, trying to maintain that connection.
Her vision wasn't just personal imagination. She's implicitly affirming something transpersonal, the imaginal realm we discussed. Peter's resistance mirrors his earlier resistance to Jesus' path sometimes.
Until Levi steps in, reminding them of the teacher's love for Mary, that the last shall be first, perhaps.
Levi's wisdom cuts through. He sees the teacher knew her well. He calls them back to the core task. Become anthropos. Let the teacher take root. Spread the gospel as witnessed.
Not adding rules, just living the witnessed truth. That call to return to teshuva or metanoia, repentance as returning to our true center.
Moving beyond limited thought toward the spirit. The anthropos, the fully human, is the goal. Allowing the teacher's spirit to guide us to wholeness.
Which isn't just abstract, but about bringing consciousness and love into everyday actions, making the world livable. The gospel implies humans are designed for this anastasis, this resurrection, or standing up.
So live the witness laws. There's nothing to add, just much to be lived, letting that divine vitality bloom.
Mary's radiance, the teacher's illumination, endures for those with eyes to see and ears to hear.
And the next step is always action. As the teacher says, walk forth. Understanding deepens through doing.
It counters pessimism, doesn't it? The imperative is always to keep evolving, keep going beyond.
The gospel reminds us of our vast potential, the call to become anthropos. It invites combination with other sacred texts, deepening the understanding.
It feels less like a rigid doctrine and more like a hint, a smile suggesting possible futures.
Filled with a familiar breath, yeah.
Yeah.
There's no final conclusion, just the ongoing process of realizing our full human potential, moving towards that silent repose in oneness.